Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel and video game news. Today is Friday, October 13th. Allegedly the day the Templars, I think, eliminated the Gnostics. Something like that. I really should go into more detail, frankly, do more research as far as that story as to why Friday the 13th is considered unlucky. I know there's probably 3 or 4 reasons, or stories, rumors, that people think of. So, yeah. As far as the accountability section for the past couple days, we can start and end with that fairly quickly today, in that I've been working on my program to turn a on-air light that is effectively a toy, because all it does is light some LEDs that say the word on air when you flip a switch or plug it in and have the switch flipped, or have batteries in it and have the flip switched, into something that actually could tell if you're actually on air with OBS through OBS's WebSocket protocol, which is frankly not as robust as I'd like it to be, but that could be said almost for any kind of interface protocol that exists, is that the messages that you have to form and send back, and the order in which messages have to be formed and sent back, are extremely tight in almost every protocol, and there isn't a lot of programming that happens around something that is out of spec, out of protocol, just sending irrelevant or in malformed messages. That being said, I spent almost all of yesterday banging my head against just a basic software, just to get WebSockets working with OBS in the first place, not even the rest of the code. Which I had ChatGPT write the code, but I'm honestly going to probably have to just rewrite it all from scratch in the first place. But whatever, I mean, it is better to start with something than nothing, and that is one of the elements, I think, that where ChatGPT may be very helpful, is particularly with its hallucinations. If it tells me the wrong answers, or one way to do it that's not particularly that good, it gives me that very human motivation to correct it and say, no, this is better. But yeah, the main thing I spent yesterday banging my head against, though, it turns out, and this is just insane, and I've noticed this with some of these Arduino header files, and I don't want to like rewrite the header files or like write everything from scratch, but there's some craziness in it. In that the print command, for instance, was converting everything into an integer. So the specific WebSockets print function, not like a serial print function, was converting the text I was giving it into an integer, and not a direct conversion where there would be some kind of process where on OBS's side they'd go, oh, this is an integer, let me turn that back into text. No, it's just really kind of truncating a very long sentence into a big number, but a number not big enough per se to still have maintained all that information. And so the whole day I was just like, why is this not working? And the reason is that I just needed to use print line instead of just print, which, I mean, it's crazy. Had to dive deep into the logs and the debugging logs of OBS to try and figure out what that is. And so, yeah, that's as much as I've succeeded so far in the program, but I did get it to make a connection and keep a connection, whereas up until that point, for the rest of the day, it was very much it was trying to connect, getting the information from OBS, and then OBS was disconnecting because it was getting garbage back. Now that I have gotten it to work, I need to figure out how to potentially keep the WebSocket connection connected, because there's actually 3 things involved here. There's the programming circuit board, the ESP32 that I'm programming. There's the Wi-Fi access point, and then there's my computer. Technically, the Wi-Fi access point is also connecting to a bridge and a wired connection to my computer, but whatever. The Wi-Fi access point isn't willing, for a good reason, to leave even a WebSockets connection open forever without getting your standard ping, which that's what ping is for, is to keep a connection alive, or some other keep alive method. Some signal, some message needs to go to keep the connection alive and say, hey, I still want to be subscribed to this WebSocket announcement. Because very much in this case, it will be a thing where the on-air live, on-air sign will potentially not receive any signals at all from OBS for hours and hours, like the 12 hours plus in between one recording and one streaming or the other. But you still want those connections to stay alive. You also don't want to flood your network with pings, so somewhere around 20 seconds is probably the right time to run a ping. Just once every 20 seconds is very reasonable. Once every second, not so much. Once every 4 or 5 minutes may be a little too long. Although, if all things being equal, maybe once every 4 or 5 minutes would be good enough. As far as other things I've been working on, Adafruit calls these new flexible noodle-like LEDs nudes or noodles, something like that. They are very much like a noodle. I got one of them and put it around my bookcases to the left of me. There's some limitations. I got one that is controllable in the To Your Smart Home, but there's really not a lot you can do there. It doesn't even have a brightness adjustment per se that you can control through any automations. So inherently this is always a problem, is that the programming on a lot of these products are terrible, and the hardware can be good, can be bad, tends to be alright. It's not just absolute garbage that'll break in the first month or two, but yeah, being able to just turn it on and off kind of sucks. It is not particularly as bright as I would like it to be. It did take a lot less to install, but the mounting brackets that it came with are far too few. I got a 20-foot long thing, and honestly I don't think it could go much longer than that. It's just barely getting enough power to go all the way to being 20 foot. And honestly, I could have lost at least half a foot, if not a full foot, and it would have fit almost perfectly. Going around, going atop 4 bookcases and down one side of one bookcase. But the down one side was hoping to brighten up an area that is fairly dark in the corner of the room and show off my new art piece. And it's not doing really the best job, in part because it's the the tarot card art pieces are in picture frames with plexiglass over them, so the light directly on it is just reflecting and making a horrible glare. So honestly, I'd probably need to put some kind of anti-glare on it, and that may have been the case regardless of whatever lighting I had done. Like, that's why mostly in my room I have just uplighting, and just having more uplighting would have been smart. I do question if we aren't 20 or 30 years away from the point where instead of having molding on the top corners of the roof, it'll just be very standard to install glue or screw entire LED strips around the entirety of the room, and you'll just have this accent downlighting effect. It probably is just as easy to do that, or will eventually be just as easy to do that, than it would be to install crown molding or paint or do anything else. Plus it would give you a little bit more light. We definitely are getting to a point where the idea of light bulb sockets are going to be gone in, I would say, 30 years or so. There's never been really a consistent standard on light bulb sockets in the first place, but I think we're going to increasingly see just built-in hardwired LEDs for everything. You'll see it in ceiling fans and lighting kits. Yeah. That's my speculation. I mean, it took a really long time to get away from regular light bulbs, filament style light bulbs, to power efficient compact fluorescent tubes and LED bulbs. But I wouldn't be surprised if the transition is fairly fast. Even now you see a lot of LED things that are designed to simply have an adapter screw into an Edison socket light bulb, standard light bulb socket in the United States, and then it just converts to a 2-wire connector that he plugs into an LED bulb. So it's very believable that unless they came up with an even better connector, which honestly it really should just be USB-C. Let's just put flat circular light can kits with a USB-C coordinate. That really wouldn't work though. If there is a reason to make a USB-C style cord, it still would probably make a lot of sense for it to be a lot bigger for higher current and bigger wires. Special summon this one. We'll go ahead and add this. And we'll go ahead and, I guess, toss this. So yeah, I installed these noodle LED lights. And yeah, they're too much of a gimmick. I do think I'll wait till probably next year, but I'll try the other option, which was more of a complicated system, where it doesn't have that flexibility built in. It doesn't have the diffuser built into it. It is just a much closer to an LED strip, but one long continuous one for under the counter lighting, to see if I could get maybe a little bit more brightness there. Both sets basically only run on 2 wires, it seems. So you're not getting individually addressable 3-wire or 4-wire connectivity. You are just sending a ground signal on one and a data signal and voltage current on the other. I'd assume how that is how it works. And because the noodle lights already have a diffuser, rubber diffuser built into them, it does kind of feel like it's a little bit more dangerous to potentially cut to length. I imagine there are very specific spots they want you to cut it to length still, and it looked like there was some markings there. But yeah. I don't know if I fully... Right. How are we gonna do this? Let's go ahead and activate this. Let's see what this does for us. I guess we can activate this in the process of gluing some of the LED strip down, because on the vertical the mounting strips, well, I ran out of mounting connections anyways, but on the vertical size I just glued it sideways, whereas on the top I glued it pointing outward. It actually looks fairly good if you're, I'd say, 6 or 7 feet away, but once you start to get a little closer, the mounting spots are a little too few to keep everything perfectly lined up like you would. And I question whether I shouldn't have tried to glue it all. And I guess I could still do that and then fill in a few holes. There's, I guess, a thought there. There's also a thought that it's not really lighting up the bookshelves as much as I'd like. Like ideally, I'd want it to maybe point downward and curve to the back of each bookshelf and then curve back forward, or just be a straight line at the back of the bookshelf, and as if I'd drilled a whole line through it, which is probably what you might want to do. I'd also say these noodles are not that bendable, so you're gonna get maybe a 30-degree bend, but after that you're gonna have to give it some space and work with it some more. The degrees there is probably totally wrong, but yeah, you're not gonna just get something that snaps into being at a right angle in the corner of a shelf, which then inherently is going to mean you're going to need to mount it some way to it. There's also some weirdness on the noodles in that really only one side looks really good. Like there's a good side and then there's a cut side, and so if you're trying to glue it on its side, you potentially are going to get this extra strip of light in between the two wires that I don't think it really intends for you to be able to see that. I also thought these noodles would have like a tape on them, but it doesn't seem like they do. I've lost here. This guy. Well, the only thing I guess I could do here is hope that he activated his ability one more time and he couldn't activate it another time. But that's not going to work. Yeah, I've received most of what I bought through the Amazon Big Prime Day sale, but as I said before, it's all very boring, normal stuff for the most part, so I really don't have anything much to say about in the rest of them. On one hand, I guess it's good that I didn't end up with a bunch of projects that would have sat around for a whole year, and I would have just barely in 12 months time finished them. On the other hand, that kind of was the entire idea, in part, was to have projects to keep myself busy. But yeah, I think I'll ideally spend a day, maybe two, more on programming the chip, and hopefully it will be done. The real thought here is that I probably should sell this on-air light, and that's going to be a whole another nightmare, certainly. Like, on some level there might be, if I can actually get it to build and the amount of extra wiring and soldering isn't terrible, I could do like a Kickstarter, which would be the real move, or ideally I would like it to be more of an on-demand thing where somebody can order something and then I can say it's sold out until I deliver on that one order. The real problem with any of this is it's just not really going to scale ever. Like, the real economy of scale there would have to be to get major orders, hundreds if not thousands, and then hire some, buy components in bulk and then hire somebody to do all the soldering for me. And ideally I wouldn't want it to just be a Chinese factory, because then the whole thing will obviously get ripped off. Like, the idea is not super unique, it's just nobody's bothered to do it. And yeah, I don't know if any of the ESP devices have any kind of encrypted firmware on them at all, so it wouldn't even really need to be too much of a reverse engineer situation where they have to figure out how the code works. It just would have to be a situation where they just copied the binary. But yeah, of all the projects I've done, none of them I've ever bothered to try and make any money off of them, and I probably should have on a couple of them if I finished any of them. And honestly, an on-air sign for YouTubers and streamers, I think, really does have some value. Although, apparently, you can, if you're just gonna flip a light on, or if it's just outside your room and you just could use a cheap Wi-Fi 400 megahertz, not Wi-Fi, but wireless 400 megahertz outlet switch, like, you don't need the extra chip. There is also inherently a problem in that people won't respect the light. Like, inherently, if you have somebody that won't respect the fact that you're streaming, which that's usually kids or like other people who just don't realize that streamers are effectively trying to do a job and can't be bothered at a job, and there are definitely people, usually it's spouses, who will bother their spouse at work all the time anyways, particularly with the age of cell phones. But yeah, so if you have somebody in your life like that, a light is not going to help you that much anyways. Yeah, so yeah, you have to take that with a grain of salt. You have to have the tough conversation to say, hey, when this light is on, don't bug me for any reason or text me because my phone's in silent. Don't just try and distract. And without that tough situation, you are going to constantly have this the occasional blips that we see on the news where a kid runs in or a cat or a dog runs in. Cats and dogs not going to respect the light. And there's very little you could do with that. You could try to, I guess, connect some other kind of device other than an LED light to the same circuitry. Turn on a taser, electrify a floor mat or something. But like that would be fairly dangerous and unethical to do. You could potentially lock a door, but door locks tend to be on 12 volts, so you'd need to add extra relays to do that. I'm still not 100% sure the sign light I have will work, and if I was to start to try to buy it in bulk or buy multiple ones, it's very possible that the circuitry wouldn't quite work because the voltages would be different. You have a good chance of the voltages not being different because most devices, as long as they have a USB-C going in, they're not going to spend for the extra chip to change the voltage. So it's going to be 5 volts going in. Then it is just a matter of current per se, in that you don't want the the ESP32 to potentially have to put all the current to the LED lights together. All the current going through that. Ideally, you want to be able to have a small amount of voltage toggle a latch. And luckily, it looks exactly like that is what the case is in my instance, because there are multiple connection points on the chip that indicate to me that the light, the on-off switch is triggering a toggling a latch to send the current to the LED through different connection points. Otherwise, you would just have the switch in line with the LEDs. You just put it before or after the LEDs and break the circuit that way. Interesting. I played basically everything. I should have activated that last card I had. Oh well. Probably gonna lose here. So then it just becomes the wiring becomes a weird situation where I probably want it so that the switch turns off the ESP32 completely. So it needs to get power via the switch. So it needs to get the 5-volt power, connect wire to it. Then it needs to control the rest of the circuitry with a different pin. Which means it needs to be wired also to the ground pin somewhere. Which, yeah, that shouldn't be too hard to do. And on one hand I could cut up a wire and use a USB connector to give it power. But in the finalization of the product, it would almost certainly be a case where the wires are soldered directly together. So it probably is just smarter to do it that way. Yeah. I feel like I'm probably rambling about stuff that nobody cares about though, so we probably should move on. For the YouTube channel, massive amount of 23 viewers watched my last live stream, and here I am potentially just blowing it, rambling. The next stream after that. Yeah, that's pretty dumb. I think I'm seeing a pretty good increase, I won't say massive, of viewers because I've started using premieres on basically everything, the YouTube Shorts. I've seen an increase in views on YouTube Shorts, I've seen an increase in comments on YouTube Shorts. I feel like that is because premieres are happening, which... okay, I guess that teaches me that I should have been premiering things non-stop. We'll continue to monitor the situation and see if things stay the same. But yeah, because of just the way things are getting, notifications are being scheduled for all the different social medias, premieres are just going to happen for everything. Someone commented on one of the YouTube Shorts saying I don't know what to comment, probably because I have the like, comment, and subscribe pop-up play there, which, you know what, I don't know what to comment is just as valid a comment as anything else. It actually works very well. Because that's all YouTube's algorithm is looking for, is engagement. Yeah, the only other really fun thing I got was the Chromecast, which I haven't really played around with at all. I'm gonna try and see if I can sideload some of the Tuya smart home apps, or if I could just install the Tuya smart home app there and see what the level of notifications are on a Chromecast in general. Because, yeah, that's where it could be fairly useful. Like, ideally, I'd like to upgrade my video doorbell to work with the Tuya system, which isn't the best system, but just trying to get everything in one environment, and then have a new video doorbell pop up footage whenever anybody walks in front of the doorbell or presses the doorbell button. I really have had so much luck here. Even though I've been going only 35 minutes, I think I'm just willing to go ahead and end playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Early. It is silly to say, hey, I'm doing so well in Yu-Gi-Oh! Let's quit playing Yu-Gi-Oh! But that is kind of what I'm feeling. I suppose I should also just continue the update, as I feel like I'm approaching the ends of Lower Decks, and in part of approaching the end of Star Trek Lower Decks on my cell phone, playing that game, the Lower Decks game. They are giving me the same special events over and over again, except for now they are doing a special Halloween style event right now, but before that, but they've rewritten and polished up some of the previous repeated special events, so that their level of continuing to serve the player base is to barely rewrite some text instead of introducing a whole new gameplay mechanic, which is really what they needed, or profiles or backstories. Honestly, every single collectible character in Lower Decks, even though it really isn't a gacha game as much as it may look like one, should be should have its own special storyline, characterization, backstory. It's kind of pointless to level up a character when all that leveling up a character does is give it a higher number to meet some ever-increasing requirements. Still playing Tinkafuma. They are a couple days away from adding any new content on Tinkafuma, the adult game, but once they do, I think that they're serving their player base a little bit better than Lower Decks is, because there's just more gameplay modes and different things you can do. You can spend easily a lot more time in Tinkafuma, or at least have more fun with your time in Tinkafuma. But yeah, it still has some severe limitations and really couldn't be my main game ever, just because it is 100% about adult content. Like, every story focuses around that. Every story is sleazy, for lack of a better term. There isn't any heartfelt storyline or characterization really going on. Then I'm playing Memento Mori, and that's just getting better and better. Although, for the past couple days, I have been stuck at one level. I finally, last night, was able to build up a team strong enough to defeat the boss that I was stuck on. And once I defeated the boss that I was stuck on, I was able to jump up at least another 10 levels of the story, 10 more missions, which, yeah, inherently that's how it goes. Is you get strong enough to beat that difficulty spike, and then once you've beaten the difficulty spike, you can jump through several easier boss battles until you hit the next difficulty spike, and that's where I am now. But Memento Mori is only a year old, and they're about to celebrate their 1 year anniversary, or they are celebrating their 1 year anniversary right now. So that gives me a decent amount of hope while Memento Mori had been kind of light in characters, in the way they make characters feel important is a double-edged sword. It does certainly feel to me like there's a decent chance that eventually Memento Mori will become a lot more fleshed out as a character, as a game. Let's see. And then I'm still slowly playing little by little. There are some days where I'm not making as much progress as I should on Seven Mortal Sins Ecstasy, which too is an adult game, but has a slight difference in that it is still coming through the Google Play Store, so it's more lewd than nude as far as adult content. And it is a fairly overwhelming game. There's just too much in that game. And I imagine that's because that game, Seven Mortal Sins Ecstasy, has probably been out for 2 or 3 years. And I think this probably highlights the major issue of jumping into mobile games and gacha games on their earliest possible start. You either need to roll the dice within the first announcement pre-registration of a mobile game, or at best wait a year, at most wait a year to see if there's an element there to the game being well received and having a big enough player base. And of course, in the accountability section, I could say I watch a lot of TV. I'm still doing way too much TV watching. Gen V or Gen 5 on Amazon Prime, watching an episode on that. Week by week episodic views, I don't know if I can really manage to tolerate for Gen V, because it is a connected storyline and it really does just make more sense to watch it all in a row once it's done. I'm still watching Solar Opposites, which it's gotten kind of weird in the 4th season, I would say. Feels like the writing is different and the improv is gone, and I bet a lot of that has to do with one of the characters, voice actors, being replaced and removed. Which we may see the exact same thing happen with this new season of Rick and Morty, is that you may see a very obvious shift in how things are done, and how stories are told. I mean, I really don't need to do anything here, so let's just I did watch a movie on Amazon Prime called Totally Killer, which I think is a funny, like, time travel / whodunit movement. See, like, 2 more wins and I'm in platinum, so I should really just stick with that. And then maybe on Monday we'll just have nothing to do at all, unless we're gonna just keep pushing it for platinum. Like we do have enough time if they don't throw a whole bunch of events at me, right, to potentially maybe get up to diamond for the first time ever. But that would really require spending the rest of the month winning. So the big news today, and we'll cover it in several different stories, is that the Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition, let's call it an acquisition, quit calling it a merger, was approved by the CMA and seems to be going through or finalized, as much as any of these things are finalized. Now remember, it is a case that the FTC still could potentially win a appeal or court thing, win some kind of administrative action against the merger, and then there might be an undoing of the merger. But at the moment, the FTC has already been ruled that it can't preemptively block the merger from going forward. So, in that, Ubisoft has secured exclusive cloud streaming rights to Activision Blizzard titles. Worldwide, which is interesting because I didn't realize it was going to be worldwide as I'm reading the article here. So titles like Call of Duty, for instance, now will be streamed by Ubisoft, which, yeah, that was for 15 years too. It's quite a deal Ubisoft is getting here. Now the ultimate corporate strategy here would be to turn around and have Microsoft acquire. Wow, my chair is getting squeaky there. I've never heard it squeak like that. Yeah, the ultimate trick here, I guess, would be for Ubisoft to be acquired by Microsoft after all this is said and done. Yeah, clearly the move would have been to see more of these things. It also probably highlights how little of a threat Ubisoft really is to Microsoft, and how poor Ubisoft in general has done. Even though it is a very large company, it's really turned itself into just EA Light, where EA is a hated company that only makes kind of garbage sports games these days. Ubisoft is not so hated yet, but only makes Assassin's Creed games and the occasional Mario and Rabbids type game, I guess. Inherently, for gamers though, having the exclusive streaming rights, I don't think does anything for Ubisoft. I don't think it makes Uplay more of a thing you would want to engage with, and I don't think it paints a new palette of ideas and concepts. Yeah. I'm already uncomfortable in my chair. Alright, well, I'm gonna take an oddly lean back experience here. A little bit further away from the microphone, so apologies for that. And also leaning backwards, which will almost certainly make me sound more breathful, wispy, breathless, I guess might be the better way to say it. Bobby Kotick is going to remain as the CEO until the end of 2023. They had already said this. This really isn't the biggest amount of news. And then they've also said that he's not really going anywhere, despite people wanting him to go away. After the Activision merger happens, I think there's a case here where they're perhaps implying that after 2023 he'll leave or be kicked out. There's, I don't think, any actual evidence of that, at least. Yeah, they say until the end of 2023, which, yeah, I feel like this is intentionally being deceptive here. Bobby Kotick will be the CEO of Activision Blizzard until the end of 2023, at which point he will report to Xbox Phil Spencer and be an employee of Microsoft. And honestly, if they got rid of Bobby Kotick, then I really want them to explain why they bought Activision Blizzard. Because the IPs alone just don't feel like they are really worth it when you're getting probably none of the talent. More than likely, all the talented employees have been driven off or fired or quit from Activision Blizzard. And all you're getting as far as manpower then is Bobby Kotick, and the fact that he sits on other boards and he knows politicians and he rubs elbow with the rich and elite. And that would be the one thing that I think Microsoft could actually benefit quite a bit from, despite the fact that Bobby Kotick is not well liked. That is just the case as to how things happen a lot of times. You will have somebody who knows everybody and has the connections, and they're kind of a jerk. It's a shame. It's a shame we can't create a world where everybody who is rich and successful is also a very nice guy, but you don't end up being rich and successful and connected by being a nice guy. Yeah. So, really would just come down to making a buffer now at this point. If I was going to keep on playing. I don't want to do that, so we'll just call that for today. We spent a lot of the gems in the last recording, so now is the hope to build up some gems. Yeah. GameDeveloper.com having the same story. Activision Blizzard joins Xbox after Microsoft completes a seismic acquisition. Phil Spencer says the two companies will work together as one team to bring joy and community of gaming to more people, which doesn't really mean anything. If Activision Blizzard was going to work as one team, even amongst itself, that would be fairly weird. That'd be a lot of people potentially working all together instead of being their separate groups. And frankly, even if Microsoft's subsidiaries and companies work together as one team, I'm not sure that would be better. I don't think too many gamers want all the effort to be put into Call of Duty, which would inherently be the case if everybody at Microsoft was working as one team, and every other less popular, less profitable game just gets ignored and stops being made. This Bayonetta retweeted, or the makers of Bayonetta retweeted Platinum Games, this Bayonetta soundtrack that is 4 long play records that have been colored to look like lollipops. It's quite the limited edition. 156 minutes of songs, 56 tracks. It weirdly potentially points towards the idea of the fad of owning records maybe coming to limited editions more often in video games. I don't think I've seen records as a limited edition thing. And yeah, these are definitely things you'd probably want to display on the wall more than you'd want to play. And even on that, it'd be difficult to display them on the wall. Interesting thing. Here's another slightly less interesting thing. Atari, the new Atari, or the newest iteration of Atari, is calling on indie devs to pitch a new Bubsy games, which inherently highlights that they have no idea and they would just like to license it out to somebody. Which, yeah, Bubsy never really that popular of a character in the first place, and so unless you're just an indie dev that wanted to make a game and thought Atari might actually fund your game and be a publisher, you're probably better off making your own IP that you would own in the long run. Apparently Lollipop Chainsaw Repop will now be a remaster instead of a remake. Drag Me Games says it's changed the game design based on community requests. Now, this is a double-edged sword because inherently I do think the first step to bringing Lollipop Chainsaw back to viability as a product or something that people actually remember would have been to make a remaster of the original game, then possibly make a remake. But the danger, particularly in this case, is that people have always been concerned that there would be some censorship. There's been some hints that there will be some censorship in the remake, and in the case of a remake you could potentially excuse what might have been censorship as just, well, they're remaking the whole game so things will be a little different. Now the danger is that it will be just a remaster with very little work put into it, and it still will have censorship in it, which, yeah, that's not going to make the audience very happy. It also certainly signals here that they are that they're going to try and cheap out here and do less work. Now, it's also worth pointing out that there's just not really any of the original creators working on Lollipop Chainsaw, which a remaster probably doesn't need the original creators, but the remake probably did. It might be that behind the scenes you could speculate that maybe a remake is still being pitched and worked on, that it's just going to take longer, and maybe it will get surprise announced a second time as a sequel, spiritual sequel. Yeah, I kind of would prefer a sequel than a remake anyways. Which the sequel, to my mind, really is just having Juliet as a character or a similar character come back and fight more zombie bosses. And that's about it. Yeah. It's always been a case with Lollipop Chainsaw Repop that we were going to have to wait and just see what the final product is, and now we're going to still have to wait and see what the final product is to make a decision. That's true for all games, but this doesn't look great, because the right thing to do would have been to announce it as a remaster, even if it was going to be a remake, if there was any chance that it was going to be a remaster in the first place. Or they should have stuck to their guns and said it's going to be a remake, period. Here's the GameDeveloper.com article. UK regulator CMA has approved the Microsoft's reworked Activision Blizzard deal. Double Fine is celebrating Brutal Legends by just playing it, and the Team of Legend CEO of Double Fine just playing it. Brutal Legend turns 14 years old tomorrow, they said 21 hours ago. So yeah, you still see a fairly heavy emphasis that Brutal Legends in the minds of Double Fine is the multiplayer game. For completionists, this is a great chance to snag the coveted 6 Degrees of Schaefer achievement. You snag this either by playing with Tim Schaefer or playing with someone who's played with Tim. Which that's a crazy achievement in the first place. It's crazy that that was allowed. There are several games that have achievements like that. But the real thing you want to hear here is that there would be a new Brutal Legend game, or that you would take something like the idea of Brutal Legend and do it again. Which, yeah, I could see a game in a fantasy setting built around some of the stage theatrics of, well, I don't know. It would still have to probably be rock and roll. They're the only ones that really do a massive amount of stage theatrics where it would make some sense. Yeah. It would be more difficult, but not impossible, to make like a Lady Gaga video game where you're in a Lady Gaga world and you're listening to Lady Gaga music. But had they done that and just licensed music from Lady Gaga, then it would have been easier to re-release the game, where Brutal Legend suffers horribly from all the music licenses. Moving on, Video Games Chronicle says Nintendo has changed Princess Peach Showtime's artwork to make Peach look angrier. So I assume this is the newer artwork, where this was the old artwork. We have never really seen a lot of examples of Princess Peach just downright enraged, angry, being shown on her face. Some of the Mario RPG, Paper Mario stuff, we've seen her upset and huffy, but it's never really been shown zoomed in on the face. This is, I guess, a continuing trend in that in Mario Odyssey, Princess Peach also gets mad at Mario and Bowser for always fighting over her and leaves them, strands them on the moon. So I guess maybe we are in a new era where Princess Peach is developing an angry side. I don't know if we really want to call this angry issues or anger problem per se, because in the Mario universe, I guess we really haven't seen too many characters shown as being angry. So it's an interesting evolution potentially. Hopefully it doesn't just continue on forever to the point where Princess Peach is known as the angry princess who's always making angry faces and attacking people, yelling at people, things like that. It probably says something about the Japanese that this is the first time that with technology that they've ever thought of really having any of the Mario characters emote. And some of this may very well come off to the fact that this face really does just come off as a blow-up doll face anyways. It's just mouth slightly open, eyes widely open. It comes off weird. So I can see why they may have thought, oh, this will just be a small tweak, without thinking, well, this might have bigger implications overall. It probably is a bit of technology too, in that all these games are almost certainly being made in 3D modeling software, where faces and expressions are much more modifiable. But yeah, we still don't really know what this game is. We can see that you still really get the almost exact same appearances of her. Yeah, and I think this probably is a case where you just have the mouth open a little bit too much here, and they're just closing it here and changing the expression here. And I think this is probably something Miyamoto directly asked, or somebody high up in Japan directly asked and said, hey, make these slight changes, without realizing that it's not worth making these slight changes. But yeah, this also looks weird. There really aren't enough instances I'm seeing in screenshots where her mouth is just closed. It makes her come off as either a mouth breather or kind of less intelligent looking. Moving on, Alien Isolation's mobile spiritual successor, Alien Blackout, is being delisted. The game will remain available to buy until the end of the month. Speaking of things going away from being able to buy, I saw a YouTuber talk about this, and this may just be a rumor, but they're implying that very quickly, in the next few months to the next couple years, Best Buy is going to entirely phase out physical media sales of like CDs, DVDs. I don't know if they're even selling CDs. And then eventually one would assume that also is going to include video games, which inherently I don't think phasing out DVD sales is better than phasing out video game sales. Video games are available for the most part from their storefronts in digital form factors almost 100%. If you're an Xbox player, you can go to the Xbox store and buy a video game digital. You don't have to really shop around, which means you also can't shop around, which means you can't get a deal, which that's the whole point of digital stores. But you know where all the games are going to be listed. All the games that are listed. Same is true for PlayStation. If you own a PS5, you're going to go to the PlayStation store. You don't have another option. If you're trying to buy a DVD movie, who's to tell you where you're going to be able to stream that movie? Like, it might be on Amazon Prime Video, it might be on Hulu, it might be on Netflix, it might be nowhere, it might be on some weird Showtime or MGM or Peacock servers. There's a much better argument to continue to have physical disc sales and buy physical discs if that's the thing you want to do. That being said, it really depends on the movie and how often you want to watch that movie in particular. But nothing has really fixed the 4K UHD problem. There is no streaming service with 4K UHD videos that I know of that looks great. So there is still a really good argument to buy those discs. And it's not even just that it's Best Buy. The rumor is Best Buy is going to just stop selling them overall. Best Buy occasionally would make exclusive steel case packaging versions of DVDs, and they tended not to be interesting to me. But yeah, they're not going to sell them online either. Which, honestly, as long as Amazon's still selling them, they'll still probably make as many as they would want to. And there's still plenty of things that go out of print. Anime is still a great example of something that if you want to own it and be able to watch it whenever you want to watch it in the next 10, 20, 30 years, owning it on DVD makes a lot of sense. Owning it on Blu-ray makes a lot of sense. It's making less sense as we get more and more games, more and more animes licensed to Hulu and Netflix and things like that, but things still disappear and still go away. And there definitely are still more niche things and kid things, like kids' cartoons to watch DVDs in the car. There's no easy way to download and stream those things. You never really crossed that line either, where you would be able to buy something on a 4K UHD and then download it as an MP5 video with or without DRM. So it really does feel like Blu-rays and DVDs have yet to accomplish everything they should have accomplished before you could say that they're a dead medium. Moving on. Ken Laley, a video game actor, has passed away at 52. Laley is best known for voicing Smoke in Mortal Kombat 9 and doing performance capture for Albert Wesker in Resident Evil 5. Which, that's not particularly notable. Roles. There's NPCs in Spider-Man Miles Morales and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. We know what he died from. Don't really know. Apparently he did a guest spot in Enterprise, Star Trek Enterprise and Heroes. Circumstances of his passing haven't been revealed. So, increasingly, if we're going to get obituaries at all for people who work in the game industry, we're going to see more and more cases where somebody has done only a couple roles or a couple minor bit parts or been NPC voice actors. Being considered as a video game actor, when I would say this guy is more likely described and better described as being a TV actor as much as a video game actor. And then you also have the problem there where almost certainly as many video game developers are passing away and they are just not getting press releases made up for their obituaries, and thus GameDeveloper.com is not succeeding in finding out about the game developers who passed away. Let's see. Shinji Mikami teases a return to work after his non-compete clause has seemingly ended. This Resident Evil veteran left Tango Gameworks earlier this year. This is a wild beard style, I would say. I feel like you probably would want to shave it off about here. Japanese sometimes have some wild beards and hairstyles if they can grow beards and hairstyles. Alright, so we'll see what happens here. It seems to me like the non-complete clauses are getting in the way of these developers for not really any good reason. In particular, since it seems like these people are rich enough that they can just sit around and make a YouTube channel. They probably aren't going to make any money off a YouTube channel for a year. But they can just work on some side project like a YouTube channel until the non-complete clauses happens, and then get back to making video games. Honestly, you could pretty easily just work on video game ideas in your home for your own personal idea, and then start your own company a year later when the non-compete runs out, and have a whole bunch of ideas. Nobody's going to be able to prove that you were thinking ideas. You probably write code, honestly, in your own house, and nobody could ever prove you didn't write that code like once the non-compete ran out. And honestly, if you're writing code but not getting paid to write the code, then you're doing it as a hobby. You're not really competing or working in the industry there. Mortal Kombat 1 Switch update has finally arrived, promising improvements and fixes. Switch version was widely criticized following last month's release. There is only time will tell whether people are even going to bother to investigate whether these improvements happen. Noticeably here, visual improvements and general bug fixes. They are constantly going to just use the terrible Switch version screenshots that have been circulated now when addressing this issue. I imagine even with the patch and the update, though, it's still not going to be really worth it to play Mortal Kombat 1 on the Switch. And I think at a certain level that the question needs to be asked way more often than it is, as far as, does it make sense? Is it worth it to play this kind of game or this specific game on the Switch? Or should the Switch really be thought of as your secondary console, and that you should have a first console? For kids, the Switch is definitely their first console, but the kids shouldn't be playing Mortal Kombat 1 anyways. Harebrained Schemes has cut jobs pre-Lamplighters League release. The status of Harebrained Schemes is reportedly in flux following its newest game, Lamplighters League, and Paradox's reaction to its underperformance. Has Lamplighters League even been released yet? I don't know. I don't think it has. They say it hasn't, right up here. So we have yet another story of layoffs happening. Xbox Series S is getting a new starter bundle with 3 months of Game Pass Ultimate. The new bundle will launch worldwide and offer a savings of $50, which is not a terrible thought, but it is still a fairly odd or bad deal because you don't have any backward compatibility with discs. But also it becomes this weird situation where they've announced a discless Xbox Series X version too, which would have to compete with this if it actually comes out. And then Hideki Kamiya launches a YouTube channel and cannot work in games industry for 1 year. Little hamster hire him. He'll do anything, even debugging. I imagine this subtitle here is a joke he made. This is creator of Bayonetta, or one of the guys that created Bayonetta. Let's see. There's an interview here, which I don't think really says anything at all. And here you have him walking out of the place with toys in a box, like he's just been fired. So he's definitely being cinematic and silly about him leaving, when I imagine it's been much more cordial as far as him leaving. I doubt the Japanese people would really just pack his stuff in the box and kick him out the door. Japanese people don't even like firing people, because they want to be able to say they never fired anybody. They'd rather just try and bore people to death and force them to quit, which I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they did to Hideki Kamiya. Stop giving him assignments effectively and giving him busy work or ridiculous work. But yeah, I do think Hideki Kamiya has enough personality to run a YouTube channel, but I seriously doubt he could get enough subscribers and followers to quick enough be looked at by YouTube to be monetized. He may. I mean, this is a brand new YouTube channel, so it's probably going to be in Japanese too. Let's go ahead and click on it and see what happens there. Yeah. So yeah, he already has 12.7 thousand subscribers and 2 videos. So he was the director of Resident Evil 2, Devil May Cry, Beautiful Joe, Okami, and Bayonetta. And so this is his first 2 videos, one in English and one is in Japanese. They're both the same length. So I suspect what's going to be the case here is he won't have that much watch time. So 1,000 subscribers is all you need to be in the YouTube partner program, but you need to get 4,000 watch hours. You're not going to get 4,000 watch hours with 9-minute videos. If all 12,000 people watched it, I guess you'd have 90,000 watch hours, but yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. Then they have a bunch of recommended videos here and other videos from Platinum Games. So he's gonna have to make a much longer video to get the watch time. Then he would probably qualify for the YouTube partner program, but I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a couple of months for him to get approved, and then I wouldn't be surprised if it takes 3 to 4 months before he would get a first paycheck. And then yeah, by the time you go through this whole effort, you maybe have 6 months left before your 1 year non-compete clause is gone, and you would then just be working for another game company. The only thing I could think is maybe there's some logic in making a YouTube channel by so you could document that you aren't working on a video game or violating the non-compete, even though you secretly are. Which, yeah, there's really no way you could prove, well, I've been spending all my time on this YouTube channel, thus I couldn't possibly have been working on a computer program at the same time, or video game development at the same time. It's just not provable. You'd almost have to film yourself 24/7 with no exceptions, and even then that'd be kind of ridiculous. And then let's see, this game Makoto Wakado's Case Files Deluxe Trilogy launches October 19th, which this looks like a very brutal looking game. Right, and that's going to bring me to the charts today in the regular news, and I'm going to try and really just burn through it all because honestly I'm getting a little sleepy, losing steam. It's been too laid back of a day already. There's another thing about the noodle lights or under counter lights that I installed is they don't have a sunrise feature, and because you can't control the brightness on it, if I'm going to use them as a alarm clock assistant to turn the lights on when I'm supposed to wake up, it's just going to be 100% brightness on brightness when, yeah, ideally you would like it to slowly ramp up. Alright, these two, Apex Legends and PUBG, are just hand in hand, and Naraka Blade Point is spiked up to a new high, whereas Baldur's Gate 3 has fallen to a new low. Baldur's Gate 3 seemingly following a trend of just increasingly losing another percentage of players every couple days. Same is true for Cyberpunk 2077. We do see a spike here with GTA 5, and coming out of nowhere we see a big spike of Call of Duty, and then we're seeing Rust or Team Fortress 2 fall down. So it seemed like only for a couple days people were playing Team Fortress 2 instead of Counter-Strike 2, and they've given up on that too, possibly in favor of Call of Duty. Or it could be a case that people are playing Call of Duty because of the Activision Blizzard merger. But overall, things seem fairly stable. The Steam Next Fest is still going on. Nothing really special happening there. Let's go through the Video Games Chronicle articles. That podcast, Why is Animal Crossing Lego so expensive? I think they just don't understand the price of Legos at that, because the prices for the Legos seems to be fairly within norm for Lego. Almost all the good Lego is licensed, and there is perhaps a slight premium there, but not that much. Buying a 500-piece Lego set with a license is almost exactly the same in cost as buying a 500-piece unlicensed Lego set. The Evil Within and Eternal Threads will replace Blazing Sales and QUBE Ultimate Bundle for the next free Epic Games Store game. Which, yeah, I'd say play the Evil Within 1. I would say probably don't waste your time playing Evil Within 2. PS5 slim size comparison images mock-ups have been created. Which, okay. I guess that means you can compare it to the original. Which, whatever. I mean, I guess that helps you see in comparison what it is. Talked about the Xbox Series S getting a starter bundle. Japanese Switch sales this fiscal year are tracking ahead of last year, EA Sports FC is getting a turn-based tactical spin-off. That's a little interesting. It's coming to iOS and Android. Alien Isolation being delisted, or Alien Blackout being delisted. A game called Sensible Soccer has created Sociable Soccer. It's finally coming to consoles with a FIF Pro license. I don't even know what FIF Pro is. Some kind of football club, I imagine. Football league. Talked about the UK regulator officially approving the acquisition, which maybe that does imply that the merger still has some paperwork to happen in the United States, but we can effectively assume it's gone through at this point. Paperwork doesn't mean too much to large companies. For instance, Microsoft just got hit with a back taxes bill by the IRS. I wouldn't be surprised if the FTC asked the IRS to try and bill Microsoft for some taxes just to screw them over. Government shouldn't work like that, but it probably does. Changes for Modern Warfare 3's second beta weekend have been detailed. If you want to read that at videogameschronicle.com. Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty used AI to replace a voice actor who had died. The decision was made with permission from Milo Ghost's Rick Six family, which inherently this is the thing though people don't want. Regardless of your nostalgia for a character, we won't have a capitalist economy, which I'm fine if we were going to do universal basic income of not having a capitalist economy, but if until that happens, we need it. If it becomes a situation where people die and they are not being replaced by a new generation of workers, and those new generations of workers are not being given the same opportunities to earn a living and thrive and survive. It's a shame somebody dies, and I know fans may like the voice actor of the person that dies, but the only right thing to do here would have been to hire a new voice actor to redo all the lines, or at least do the missing lines. AI is not the solution that people should be turning to in this case, because you literally are replacing a human with a robot at that case. We already talked about Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. Arma 3 is being used to spread fake news about the Israel-Palestine conflict. Okay, well, take that headline as it is. I'm mostly trying to avoid the Israel-Palestine conflict, the most recent one, as I'm not really educated or informed on it, and frankly, just it doesn't involve me as much as you might think it does. Let's see here. Video Games Chronicle says Microsoft has officially completed its acquisition of Activision Blizzard. We talked about Bobby Kotick being the CEO until at least the end of 2023. I feel like this is an older story. Maybe they're re-pointing this out. Redfall's concurrent Steam players hitting single figures every day for the past 2 weeks. Yeah, these are older stories, so we can just go ahead and skip these. And I just really have no comment on any of these old stories. I just want to move forward to the Gamatsu articles. Famitsu scores for issue 1819. Let's see, Drift CE 28 out of 40, Passepartout 30 out of 40, Payday 30 out of 40, and Sonic Superstars 32 out of 40. Now this is an old article too, so I'm not 100% sure why it's being repeated. Irium Collection Volume 3 has been announced for the PS4 and 5, Xbox One Series, and Switch, notably not for PC. In Stars in Time launches November 20th for the PC, PS4, and 5, and Switch. It's a turn-based time loop RPG game. Let's see what Steam has to say. I didn't get around to investigating the new tabs on the left idea. So, yeah, yesterday really was a waste on just how little I accomplished with the programming for that one bug. Jujutsu Kaisen Crush Clash launching February 1st in Japan and February 2nd worldwide. I think we've already made a short on this. No, weirdly we have not. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 has major free update launching October 12th, and it's coming to the PS5 and Xbox Series in 2024. One of the things that I saw is there is a new Dragon Ball series that they're teasing, which may be the original Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball Z. Which that might be interesting to remaster or abridge the original Dragon Ball series, but the original Dragon Ball series is so different from Dragon Ball Z, and I'm not sure it's going to be particularly that palatable to Dragon Ball Z fans. Sandland has a developer diary here. Really? That's not on the fall list either. Windjammer's major free update. We already talked about that. PlayStation Catalog Classics lineup for October 2023 announced. PS5 cloud streaming for the PlayStation Plus Premium members launches October 17th in Japan, October 23rd in Europe, and October 30th in North America. Dead Island Story Expansion House launches November 2nd. Dead Island 2 is not available on Steam, which at a certain point maybe that explains why I haven't paid too much attention to it. That and just its general poor reception and taking way too long. Yeah, I'm getting really tired really fast here. Persona 3 Reload trailer is available. The Iwata Dai Dorm Life. Interesting. So these are like college kids living in a dorm? Or maybe high school kids living in a dorm? Who knows? Compile Heart launches its 2023 to 2024 title lineup website. Several games being teased here. Mercenaries Lament Requiem of the Silver Wolf is coming to PC in 2024. Which, yes, I'm gonna say yes to making shorts around things that have press releases no matter what. Great Ambition of the Slimes is coming to the Switch on October 26th. Mercenaries Lament Requiem of the Silver Wolf for PS4 and PS5 is available worldwide. I talked as much as we really could about Hideki Kamiya. Mikado's Case Files Deluxe Trilogy launching October 9th. and put this on the follow list, but this would be a weird one to make it short. I'm gonna do it just as an experiment. Famitsu sales being updated. Got Assassin's Creed Mirage still doing fairly well. Nintendo Switch games still taking the first couple spots, and most, well, no, actually you have a significant number of PS4 and PS5 games taking up the top 10 spot for the first time in what seems like months. So we might see a very strong Christmas sales, end of the year sales for PlayStation in Japan. Doesn't really matter though, because Nintendo's just gonna announce the Switch 2 or whatever their new console is called, probably somewhere around January or February next year, and then all the sales will be focused on that. Let's see, Romance of the Three Kingdoms 8 remake details new features and enhancements if you want to check that out on Komatsu. Earth Defense Force 6 is coming to the West in the spring of 2024 for the PS4 and 5 and PC via Steam, which will make a short around that. You still have the same problem with Earth Defense Forces in that the games are somewhat rough, although they're getting slightly better with each iteration. House Flipper 2 Sandbox Mode trailer and screenshots are available if you want to check that out. Giga Bash DLC Ultraman 4 Characters Pack, or Ultraman 4 Characters Pack, is available. Not sure which one, how you read that, but it's Ultraman 4, Characters Pack or Ultraman, 4 Characters Pack. Arashi Castle of Sins Final Cut has been delayed to December 5th. Let's see if there's a follow on this one. Nope. Dragon Ball Game Battles Hour 2024 has been set for July 27th through the 28th. This feels like this may be some kind of weird event. Multiple Dragon Ball games. Sandland English voice cast has been announced. Spider-Man 2 Brooklyn 2099 and Kumo suits have been revealed. Let's see. I already talked about Lollipop Chainsaw. Troublemaker 2 Beyond Dreams announced for PC. Make a short around that. Troublemakers Raise Your Own Gang now available for Xbox One and Series. Interesting. It's like there's almost this attempt to resurge the Japanese biker gang meme, which almost certainly is dead and buried at this point. Empire of Ants reveal teaser trailer and screenshots are available. I saw a game like this. I'm not sure if it was this game where, no, I saw just an advertisement for a mobile game where you play as ants fighting against other characters underground. Yeah, this looks way better, however, than the mobile game I saw. Let's see, Otogi Katsugi, yeah, whatever this says, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, has a trailer. Looks like it might be an interesting Japanese game, but it probably isn't going to get translated and come to the West. I already talked about that. A game called Pedal Crash 2 has been announced. Okay. That brings us to GameDeveloper.com. And let's see, Salt Sea Chronicles Climate Impact Report shows how development affects our planet. I guess check that article out if you're interested. We already talked about the obituary. We already talked about harebrained schemes. Fragbit Group has acquired DICE alumni studio Fall Damage, which, okay, we'll see if that leads to a new game being released or made. And we'll skip the rest of that. We will also go ahead and just skip the follow list cleanup here. For the most part, I guess I can get rid of things that are mixed reviewed, but other things, yeah, might as well just do it here. Put Homestar Runner on the wish list. This one's not yet. Hitman 3 can go to the wish list. There's no reason it wasn't. Little Agency needs more time. Why am I going through H's? I feel like I was going through things starting with like J or K before. Gonna get rid of hidden series. Gonna say no to Hex Rogue. Alright. And so I'm gonna try to just burn through this as quickly as possible as far as all the new games that have come out, because I am falling asleep like crazy here. So here we have a furry visual novel game that's not in the adult section. We can say no to that. Here we have a turn on the light jigsaw puzzle, which I'll give a chance to. Here we have a Asset Flip Dark Screenshot Syndrome horror game. I'll give it a chance though. I'm gonna be really generous, almost certainly. Skull Fracture, I'm gonna say no to. An RPG Maker game, I'm gonna say no to. Mountain Chaos, we can say no to. Here we have what looks like would be an adult game, but it's not. It's called Nope 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 Nurses. Verbal abuse and violent expressions are immature content. So, abusive nurses, yandere style nurses, I guess. Guess we'll give that a follow. Although, do I say make a short on it? I guess I do. Here we have a adult game, 2D colorful anime style. Our little secret heart pounding idol sex forbidden lessons with the manager. 12.59 Japanese full audio English. 15 CGs that are separate, over 90 in total, 15 scenes. Maybe it's a little lackluster in content, but particularly for the price, looks like there really is just one character. And yeah, I'll be interested to see the reception here. As far as whether people think it's worth the price. Next we have a game called Over Devil Legends of the Sacred Stone, which is also an adult game, 2D colorful anime style characters. It looks to me more like it has some RPG elements here, and there's just more characters and more BDSM in it. Now weirdly, this game is already mixed reviewed. It's $13.49 and it's English and Chinese, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's some problem here with the game. It's going into a lot of finishes. There are complaints, and this is kind of the issue here I think you're always going to run into, is that there's some level of censorship in this, and I would assume that's lower stuff, but I'm not really seeing any censorship actually in the game. The screenshots looks full on hardcore uncensored lower genitalia and everything, so yeah, the screenshots seem to be inconsistent with what's being shown. But I'll put it on the follow list and see if I can get more feedback on that. I guess that is a problem that may just come up in general, is that you'll just have a decent number of people that are unhappy with softcore games, that most Japanese games would be softcore because they have to be blurred, at least the lower parts do. Here we have yet another adult game, so we're getting some adult bundling. Again, this is a 2D game, and I would still say it is fairly close enough to be called an anime style when you look at the characters, although it feels like it may not actually be drawn by a Japanese animator. It's English, Russian, and Chinese, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is just a decent Russian clone. Looks too like it is some kind of, I don't know if it's a tower defense game or an RPG game, but I'll give it a chance. Increasingly, the whole fall list is just going to become overrun with adult games. Escape here. Doesn't look like anything. AC shooting looks like terrible. Friendship looks terrible. It's a funny name. Infernal Cave looks terrible. Fannies. Some kind of psychological horror game I'm not interested in. Real grade might be something. The Coffin of Andy and Layla looks like it's a different art style, something of interest. We have an adult game called Joy Life 2, which I should not be showing. It's 3D CGI, and weirdly is not in the adult section. English, Chinese, and Russian once again. See, I would suspect this game is not in the adult section because even though it's tagged with having nudity in it, it doesn't actually have any nudity in it. So I'm going to say no to Joy Life 2. We have World League Baseball, which looks like it might be something. Moon looks terrible. Here we have another Chinese, not in the adult section, looks like it an adult game. And see, inherently what you run into the problem here is that they abuse these tags, which frankly using any of these tags should get you in the adult section. NSFW, nudity, mature, sexual content, any of those. But as these adult games get more focused on these having some level of first person shooting elements here, they get worse received. And yeah, that's just not any way to do things, really. Around the world, travel to Brazil. Yeah, I'll make a short around that. A Quest that became legend, looks like nothing. Let's see. Does this game have mature content? Yep. This romance club Stories I Play, for instance, feels like it's going to potentially justify these kinds of games being put in the adult section when you have this long description of mature content happening, but they're mostly talking about drug use as mature content in the description, and it overall is just a visual novel. It's not a terrible art style, but it does feel like it's kind of all over the place as possibly a collection of several really short stories. This Transformers game must have just come out of early access or just been released. The Grinch Christmas Adventure. That's interesting. At least it's kind of wise to put out Christmas games early. Like, even though Halloween hasn't even happened yet. Metal Casket doesn't look like anything. Luma doesn't look like anything. Am I moving too fast here? Nope, I'm gonna say no to that. I'm trying to burn through all of this super fast before I pass out. Speed Rooms doesn't look like anything. The Last Recall doesn't look like anything. Subin Shinki doesn't look like anything. Degradation Kiyoma's Fury doesn't look like anything. Adrift in the Backrooms we can almost certainly say no to. The Chad we probably can say no to. I'm glad people have, for the most part, stopped using that phrase, the Chad, legitimately or even as a parody meme. We have a game called The Telephone, which the thumbnail looks interesting. Guess I'll give this a chance. How many more games do we have to go through? Not that many more, about 10. Lords of the Fallen, mostly negative. I don't think there's any saving that game at this point, but I'll give it some more time. We have a 3D CGI adult game called Unexpected Consequences. Same old visual novels with 3D CGI. Western art style, realistic color tone, characters. Nothing particularly interesting there. Hypogen. I'm gonna say no to. Bingo Beavers. Don't have that many bingo games, so I'm gonna say yes to that. Possessions. Nothing. Art Heist Escape Room Adventure. It's probably nothing. I'll give it a chance. Infinity Trials. Looks like nothing. Shibu Simulator Supreme. Looks like nothing. Submachine Legacy. There might be something to this. Game just called Age, which looks awful. Polygon Fantasy Simulator. Looks like just a clone of Tabs, totally accurate battle simulator. And then Bodhi Tanks. Maybe has something to it. Alright, well, I guess that goes to show that I can burn through the news fairly quickly if I'm falling asleep and need to rush. I certainly could have probably talked more, although there really isn't that much to say. That almost all the news is just around the Microsoft Activision Blizzard merger finally going through, which isn't really new news. The accessibility PlayStation controller finally got released, and I saw mainstream news sources talking about that, but that's not new news either. So that's going to be it for this stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's a link down below in the description. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.